Good evening, and welcome to an episode of Storytime with Spootyskater. I'm your host, Mr. Spootyskater, and today we are reading Melvin, the unicorn who thinks he can. Now, prior to reading any book, I usually like to learn a little bit about the author so that I can get in the proper headspace to fully enjoy the story. And luckily, on the back cover, we have an About the Author blurb. Andrew grew up in Okhotsk, Russia, where he hunted many buffalo. His love for hunting inspired him to write a book about how cruel hunting is. His hunting books became popular with the toddlers of the world. It taught them useful tactics in eating corn foods, such as corn on the cob, candy corn, canned corn, and cornbread. All of the success he had achieved allowed him to fulfill his lifelong dream of bungee jumping off of the Empire State Building. The bungee cord snapped, and he landed face first on the concrete. That is why he is so ugly. And here we have it. The story, Melvin, the unicorn who thinks he can. Here we have Melvin, presumably, and a nice lovely rainbow with a pot of gold at the end. Let's begin, shall we? Once upon a time, there was a unicorn named Melvin, and he thought he could. "Hello," says Melvin. Whoosh! Here he is, flying. Apparently Melvin can fly. Excellent. And he came to rescue babies stuck in trees. Very noble of you, Melvin. Very noble. Here he is again. Melvin. Ah ha 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 ha, says Melvin. He seems to enjoy what he does very much. There once was a robber robbing a bank. "Give me all the money," says the robber. As you can see, that is a very effective intimidation tool. But Melvin quickly flew to the rescue. Whoosh! Here he is again, demonstrating his flying abilities. But Melvin got bugs stuck in his teeth. Oh man, don't you hate it when that happens? And so he had to brush his teeth. Oral hygiene is of paramount importance. Good for you, Melvin. When he arrived at the crime scene, he had to use the restroom. So he asked a friendly stranger, "Do you know where the restroom is?" Says the friendly stranger. "It's right over there." "Thanks." Ah, and here he is, the friendly stranger, running away. "You've got to help us. We were just robbed," says the store owner. "Oh no," said Melvin. And so Melvin searched throughout the land for the criminal. When he found him, he was in Hawaii, apparently on the beach enjoying his days on a hammock with all the money he stole from the store. And there was a giant crab. "Meep," says the crab. The giant crab befriended Melvin, and they decided to fight crime together. Oh yeah! Don't you just love a dynamic duo? Meep. But the giant crab was stupid and hungry, and just wanted to eat Skittles. Skittles! Melvin got frustrated with Mr. Crab and shot laser beams out of his eyes. "Roar!" said Melvin as he shoots laser beam out of his eyes. The laser beams hit the coconuts on a palm tree. The coconuts fell down and hit the robber on the head. The robber got a pretty big lump on his head and was knocked unconscious. Melvin dragged the robber to the top of the mountain, presumably when he was still unconscious, where he locked up Mr. Robber for all of his bad deeds. Here is Mr. Robber, unconscious still, in chains atop the mountain. The end. I do love a story that has a good ending where justice is served. All of this reading has me parched. I need to wet the whistle with a delicious bourbon whiskey. What did you think of our story this evening? Melvin, the unicorn who thinks he can. Do you think the punishment for Mr. Robber was just to be locked up atop a mountainside for all eternity, contemplating his bad deeds? What about Mr. Crab? Where do you think he will end up with his Skittle addiction? Do you think he'll ever kick the Skittles? And when was the last time you got bugs in your teeth flying to the rescue of some poor sap being robbed? For me, it was just last week. But as always, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this miniature adventure with Melvin, the unicorn who thinks he can. If you like Storytime with Mr. Spootyskater, then don't subscribe to this channel because I only wrote one story, and quite frankly, it was kind of weird. So I don't think I'll be doing any kind of videos like this ever again. But if you really enjoyed it, let me know, and perhaps I'll break out the writing utensils once more and develop another intriguing plotline for you kind folks behind the screen. Until I see you beautiful people next time, keep on spootin'. He's not quite an observant fellow, is he, Melvin? I mean, he just let that robber go. He was so infatuated with using the restroom that he just let the robber walk right by. I wonder if he ever recovered and returned the money to that store owner. Why did that store have so much cash in the register? It just seems like a robbery waiting to happen. Surely they had some kind of safe in the back, or perhaps they'll, hopefully now, enact some kind of protocol of dropping money at the bank once they have over a certain limit. Will Melvin return to fighting crime after all of these days? Or is he due to retire soon? His flying abilities are dwindling by the day. The title is interesting. He thinks he can. Does that mean he actually can't? Is he deceiving himself on a lifelong pursuit to justify his actions? Maybe Melvin is the bad guy. Maybe he lives in some kind of alternate delusional reality where he perceives himself as the protagonist. Maybe he's actually the antagonist and he's preying upon innocent citizens. There's just so many questions unanswered. And I'm afraid that we may never know the answers to Melvin, the unicorn who thinks he can.